Hey guys, how you doing? What I'm going to do is pick up from my last video, and that was about overtraining and how older athletes as well, when they take a statin, can be confused with overtraining. But in reality, it is generally because of the statin. But I'm going to kind of touch on something else, kind of related to that. Kind of goes into the older athlete, older bodybuilder that wants to continue with his athleticism or his bodybuilding competitive career. And basically I'm going to touch on sarcopenia. And what sarcopenia is, it is decline of muscle mass as we get older. So as we get older, and everybody knows this, everybody just doesn't know why, right? Usually past the age of 40, things start to come down a little bit. You start losing a little bit of mass, start losing a little bit of your strength and stuff like that. And pretty soon you find you can't keep up with the younger guys anymore. And so when we have this sarcopenia, and it is inevitable that we're all going to get it at some point, we're going to start losing our muscle mass. We're going to start losing certain certain attributes of our strength, so on and so forth. And there really isn't a whole hell of a lot we can do about it, but we can slow it down. And so I'm going to kind of touch on some things here. So, when we start losing mass and we start losing, strength and stuff like that, and it's natural. We're not, you're not going to see it overnight. It's a gradual thing, and you have to adjust your training for this. And so, when we talk about this, it is a gradual thing, and it's something that I've noticed over the years, and I think about quite a bit. And and so you see it in older athletes. We just can't keep up. We just can't do the same things that we used to do, even though we try. And a lot of the times we fail. If you're a sprinter and stuff like that, you're going to find that your times aren't going to be as fast. If you're a bodybuilder, and I'm going to touch more on bodybuilding than anything else, and only because you see it more prevalent visually in bodybuilding than anything, as far as watching the muscle mass disappear. When it comes to an athlete, you see their performance decline, right? And so when I see athletes, or when I see bodybuilders that want to compete, and I'm one of them, I know that I can't. I'm realistically, I know I can never compete with the guys at least at my level that are in their 20s, 30s, and so forth. I'm 56 years old, and I've came to the realization that I can't carry the mass that I used to, and I can't carry the strength have the strength that I used to have to even carry the mass. But you know what? It can be slowed down. And so usually after the age of about 40 years old, thereabouts, and it really depends on your genetics, you start losing about 10% a year. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. About 3 to 5% of your muscle mass a year. Now, if you think about that's quite a bit. Now, can we avoid it? No, we can't avoid it. You just can't. But we can slow it down, and we can slow it down through dietary measures. As we get older, we do need more protein, because muscle is basically it is protein, and protein is the building block for muscle. So we need to keep that up. You need to keep your training up as well. Now, I'm going to go on to the extremes here. I'm going to say, if you look at the past competitors that have tried to come back at the professional level, the more prevalent ones, and I'm going to say let's say Flex Wheeler and Kevin Levrone, they've all tried to come back Kevin tried to come back and do the Olympia at one point, and for his age he looked fantastic. But Kevin will never be the same Kevin, no matter what he does, no matter what he takes. It's just never going to happen, no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard he tries. And I think he realizes that we get to that point to where we just can't We just can't do it anymore. If you look, and the first thing usually to go on a bodybuilder is going to be their legs. And if you looked at Kevin's legs, if you're a bodybuilding fan like I am, and you followed Kevin's career ever since he was a teenager back in Maryland, all the way to the Olympias, right? Kevin just wasn't the same. So when you try to come back like that, you know, it's very difficult to regain that muscle mass. His upper body looked all right, and it looked good, but it still wasn't the same. His legs were not, I'm not going to say non-existent, but they weren't Kevin Lebroni's legs. Of course, they weren't. Now, when he came back a second time, he did a second show after that. They improved, but they've improved about as much as they're going to be able to improve. Now, let's go ahead and take the other extreme, which is Dexter Jackson. Now, Dexter Jackson, he's 49 years old, and Dexter he's phenomenal. I mean, he's probably has the best genetics in bodybuilding, but even with Dexter, as great as he looks and as competitive as he is, you know, still placing in the top 5 at the Olympia, the top 10 at the Olympia, you see little things that are starting to creep up age-related, and the bottom line is it's going to happen, and there's going to be a point to where he's going to retire, and he's going to have to come to that realization, hey, I can't compete anymore. But you know, for Dexter, he's got just unbelievable genetics. Now, if you go back in a little bit of history, bodybuilding history, you have a guy named Albert Beckles. And Albert Beckles competed, I think, till he was 57 years old successfully. Now, even though he competed to the age of 57 or 58 successfully, I could be wrong, I think he might have been a little bit older, you could still go back 20 or 30 years about what he looked like, and you know, even at 57 or 60 years old, he still looked phenomenal. He didn't look like he did when he was, you know, when he was 20 years younger. Of course he didn't. And that's just natural age declining and natural, you know, muscle mass, you know, going away. And so when you start, you know, losing your muscle mass, you have all kinds of, you know, metabolic things start to happen to your body. You start losing muscle mass. Now let's go ahead and go back to the athlete who doesn't keep as much muscle on him, and you know, things start to happen. You know, if you know anything about physiology, that the more muscle mass you carry, the more lean muscle mass you carry, the more metabolically efficient your body is going to run. Okay, you're going to be able to burn more fat. Your metabolism is going to be much faster, so on and so forth. As opposed to when you stop training or start slowing down your training, your muscle mass goes way even further, right? Declines even further, and then you have things. You start getting a little bit fatter, and that's going to happen anyway. You start gaining a little bit of weight, and that a lot of it is because you're losing your muscle mass. Why do we lose muscle mass? Well, it's just the natural progression of life that we just, you know, we start, you know, losing certain hormones start to decline, or testosterone level in men, you know, I mean, testosterone levels start to decline, and you know, and HGH levels start to decline, and which basically leads to, you know, your cells just not being able to recuperate and not grow like they used to, and you know, and things like that. I'm being very candid with you about this. I'm not going to get too much into science about it, and I could, but why? You need to know the basics. Okay, now you keep up your training, you keep up your diet, and you know, you keep a lot of protein. And I'm not going to say a lot of protein, but if you keep, you know, you don't have to go, you know, 1.5 to 2 pounds of, you know, of protein per pound of your body weight like a bodybuilder would do. But if you keep right around, you know, 3/4 of a gram to 1 gram per pound of your body weight, I think that is plenty sufficient to keep your muscle mass, to help keep muscle mass, I should say, and keep your body running more efficiently. And it'll help keep you stronger too. And the stronger you are, the more you can push in the gym. And I'm not going to get into training modalities when it comes to, you know, when it comes to older bodybuilders or fitness or older athletes, because for the sake of this video, it's irrelevant. I don't need to, but it is something that needs to be taken into consideration. We can't keep up as much as we like. As much as when I go in the gym, I try to keep up, and sometimes I get, you know, I hold myself back, you know, and I have to start thinking about injuries and stuff like that. I mean, look, even for my age, I can still do a ton of weight for my age, but I can't do what the younger guys are doing. Now, intensity-wise, I can, because, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of side. People don't train intensely anymore. They don't train hard. You know, I go into the gym every day, and it doesn't make any difference which gym I go into. I go into Golds. I can go into, you know, I can go into the other gyms that I train at, and really nobody trains hard anymore. You know, nobody puts their head down. Nobody looks at the clock and what the recovery is. Everybody's bullshitting around on the phone and so on and so forth. So training intensity, in my opinion, is, you know, is one of the things that has to be done in a gym. And so, you know, you want to make sure of your rest periods, because your rest periods do mean you know, certain recovery times as far as keeping your muscle mass and gaining your muscle mass. And it is possible to gain muscle mass at our age. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So these are just some things I want to touch on, some things that I think are pertinent to when we get older that we have to be conscious of. Because if we're not, we're going to let it slip away. And if you're not conscious of it and you let it slip away, you kind of wonder, you know, kind of like with the overtraining thing, you know, you wonder what's going on. Why can't I recover the way I used to? Why can't I train the way I used to? And you know, it's just another contributor to what we have to look forward to when we get older. Now, lately, I've been talking more to the older athletes and bodybuilders, because, well, I am one. Look, I'm not ancient, I'm not old, I am getting older, and I'm quite aware of where we need to be when it comes to that. Okay, so look, if you guys have any questions, I want you guys to hit me up, you know, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to, you know, if you're on Instagram, feel free to DM me, feel free to go ahead and, you know, email me. You can email me at info@mpftrainingsystems.com, and you know, DM me, whatever you guys want to do. Make sure you subscribe. I want to get more of these videos out, because I really think that it is. I think it's helpful, because these are things that I didn't know when I was coming up and I was training, and just more things I can pass on to you guys. All right, hope this helped. You guys have a great day.